how I would book WrestleMania Backlash 2022. It's some fantasy booking fun here on SCW today. Thank you for choosing the channel and choosing the video. Please subscribe right now, leave any comments in the comments section. Please like and share the video as well. So I am recording this straight after the Raw after WrestleMania, so anything happens between now and WrestleMania Backlash, you have been warned. I have no idea what's going to happen, so I'm just booking it myself, and it's your decision whether you think I'm doing a better job or a worse job than WWE going through the card. I've got a number of matches to go through, some main event ones and some lower card ones as well. And of course, like any good show, we need to start with the kickoff. So with the match that I've put for the kickoff is for the Women's Tag Team Championships. We're already lower on teams in WWE, it seems, but of course the champions Sasha and Naomi, Team Bad, I'm going to have them taking on a returning Nikki Cross and Piper Niven, a Scottish connection, if you will. They've been sort of teaming anyway in recent weeks and months, and WWE have trademarked the name Piper Niven in recent times, from my understanding, if you believe the rumor mill dirt sheets, if you will. So I think WWE should cut the losses with the Doudrop and Nikki ASH gimmicks, get rid of them all together, give them back their old proper names, put them in as a proper tag team, and see what carnage they can create in WWE. And all of a sudden, I'm very keen on seeing what this match could represent. Because for me, I could have got Natalia and Shayna Baszler, but it just feels like a very thrown together tag team, doesn't quite work. I feel this team of Nikki ASH, or now Nikki Cross, and Piper Niven, I think we're going to have some natural chemistry. We've seen them have some good matches this year already. I think if you were to just ditch the gimmicks they've got, personally for me, I think it ticks a lot of the boxes. But would we get new champions? I think I'd find a way to keep the belts on Sasha and Naomi just now, because they've just won the belt, so that's what I would do. But maybe this could be the start of a program going forward that's not necessarily one and done. Going into the main show then, I would do Tag Team Champions versus Tag Team Champions, RK Bro against the Usos for, well, unifying the Tag Team Championships, because if Roman Reigns can do it, why can't the Usos do it? The Bloodline, after all. The Usos will be on Monday Night Raw as well as SmackDown going forward, because wherever Roman Reigns goes, the Bloodline follows. So they've been in a number of matches together anyway recently, whether it's been six-man tags. They've also actually wrestled on the Go Home show to WrestleMania 38. They even had their first match at Survivor Series last year. And right now, for both teams, I'm not quite sure what else they're going to do. It seems that they've beat every other challenger. So for me, it's only left to go against each other. And with the championship unification idea, then the Bloodline could have every single championship that perhaps matters to them, and RK Bro can start maybe seeing some dissension going forward at the end of this pay-per-view, because, well, I'm not quite sure what WWE is going to do with these championships. Are we getting where just champions will be on both shows, or are we ending the brand split? But I want to put a further seed in. I want further questions, so let's see if we can unify those tag team titles. Next on the card will be Liv Morgan taking on Rhea Ripley. In my opinion, this team is going to break up. Rhea Ripley is going to join Edge's new group that's going on Raw. Of course, Edge and Damian Priest already together. We expect more members to join. I think Rhea Ripley is a cert for that. So for that idea, she walked out after the Championship Contenders match. She didn't seem to still get a championship match anyway for her and Liv Morgan. The next week on Raw for the Women's Tag Titles, they will be unsuccessful. Liv Morgan will lose that match, and Rhea Ripley will have had enough and will turn on Liv Morgan. She will probably eventually join Edge's group as well, following the message of perhaps she's listening to what Edge is saying, perhaps felt a bit lost, and now she feels found. And with this new direction, we can build Rhea up as a top contender for the Raw Women's Championship, and to start off by doing that, she can defeat her tag team partner, Liv Morgan. Speaking of Edge's new group, him and Damian Priest, of course, they took out AJ Styles. Well, I'm going to book a tag team match for this show. We're going to have Damian Priest and Edge going against AJ Styles and Finn Balor. It's almost like Bullet Club, the club. They have some connection from the past. WWE, why not put them together as a team for a common goal here? Because Finn Balor was feuding with Damian Priest going in towards WrestleMania, so you can connect the dots here and make this work. Finn Balor, though, sadly won't be United States champion at this point. He will lose that strap to Austin Theory on Raw because, well, they've wrestled on Raw a number of times, and Austin Theory has won quite convincingly every time they've wrestled. So there's no point delaying that to a premium live event, in my opinion. But for this as a tag team match, this would be a lot of fun to see. And I think what you could do as well, if Edge is going to have a faction rather than just a duo, this could be a good way to actually unveil the next member of the group. That way they remain one step ahead of the baby faces going on to a future event where you can ultimately build Edge versus AJ Styles one more time. But at this point, whether it's, I don't know, maybe a rumored Tommaso Ciampa that could be joining this group, maybe a Blackheart Tommaso Ciampa that could be quite fun as well. That could be someone that could cost AJ Styles and Finn Balor. Maybe they actually need to make a club rather than a duo going forward. Next, we had a double cross on Monday Night Raw recently. MVP turning on Bobby Lashley to go on the side of Omos. You know where we're going here. It's going to be a handicap match. Lashley taking on Omos and MVP, because, well, MVP, he can do the talking for Omos, and sadly at this point he may need to do a little bit of the wrestling as well. Now MVP, probably not at the stage of his career that he could probably carry the match on Omos's behalf, but certainly you have that dynamic of where you've had that turn on Bobby Lashley. You can perhaps set up a match on Raw, perhaps then with Omos and Lashley once again with MVP's guidance. Omos picks up the victory. Lashley could want a match with MVP on Raw, and of course Omos will get involved, stop that match from happening, and then you can get towards the handicap match here for the show. So every time MVP is in the ring with Lashley, he looks vulnerable, but every time Omos gets involved, then, well, of course, Omos looks more dominant. I did think that Omos's push in WWE was finished after that loss at WrestleMania, but now MVP is by his side. I could potentially see that the heels would go over here, but hey, I'm booking this. I want Lashley to remain in the main event picture. I'd have him get the pin over MVP to protect Omos, and then all can go their separate ways going forward. Well, it's WrestleMania Backlash. We can't avoid it. Of course, it's gonna happen. It's inevitable, so I'm gonna book it myself. It is the rematch of Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey for the SmackDown Women's Championship, because that feud, unfortunately, doesn't appear to be one and done after WrestleMania. But I do think it's a little blessing in disguise, Ronda Rousey losing at WrestleMania, because all of a sudden her matches don't seem so obvious going forward. But looking at the storyline narrative of what we've had, it started where it was going to be more submission based, then it was more brutal attack based. We're going to need a special gimmick match for this, and where I originally thought perhaps a submission match would work best for these two to close off the feud, I'm actually going to go with a more sports entertainment vibe match to close off the feud with these two. I'm going to go with an I Quit match. Now, I know that sometimes these can be a bit clunky because you need to get the microphone, need to put it to their mouth all the time to say no and back off and leave me alone, I'm not going to quit. But I think if it's done correctly, I think it could work, because obviously the submission element is certainly a fun part of the match, can be that's used to it, but obviously with some of these big moves that people have been put through tables and stuff like that, it sort of helps the element as well. And of course, Charles Robinson was a big factor also at the pay-per-view, the fact that he was knocked down also. You know, was it by accident? Was it not? Could we get Charles Robinson back in the ring, the one with the microphone? Perhaps he's not doing his job perfect enough at one point as well. Could perhaps get Rousey annoyed. Perhaps there's been, you know, the little Nate. Remember back in WCW days? I think that could be a good token there, linking up there. But of course, WWE probably won't reference Ric Flair on TV, as probably they shouldn't at this stage of the game. But certainly, just have little teasers, little hints of it, could be quite fun. But of course, Ronda Rousey will overcome, because she's not going to say I quit in a microphone, even if they did the Rock Mankind gimmick thing that they did back at the Royal Rumble 1999. Ronda isn't wearing a mask and probably isn't going to be hidden away somewhere to do that. I'd have Ronda Rousey win with the I quit stipulation, making Charlotte say it in the microphone. Let's move on to the Raw Women's Championship of Bianca Belair. I'm going to have her defending again against Becky Lynch. Now, I'm not sure if Becky Lynch is taking a break after WrestleMania, but for me, I think there's one more match left in this. They had a fantastic WrestleMania feud, but I still feel the hair stipulation plays in there, and I feel they could play with the timing as well, although they did address that in the WrestleMania match. I think if they were to do a timed gimmick, once again, perhaps beat the clock challenge could work really, really well to decide the stipulation at the pay-per-view, whether it's, I don't know, a hair stipulation that's on the line once again, or they could even do an Iron Woman match. Either way, whatever one they were going to go with, Bianca Belair, I think for me, would retain the championship. I'm interested to see what they're going to do with it going forward, actually on WWE TV, but I'd be quite happy to see Bianca versus Becky one more time. The rubber match, if you will. It really does close off a feud. If you are going to repeat one match from WrestleMania to this show, this is one I'm quite happy to see, because for me, they stole the entire WrestleMania. I think they could do a great job with a great gimmick match, and yes, Bianca would go over one more time. That can move perhaps Becky onto a different feud, perhaps in and amongst the card, perhaps to find herself once again, to perhaps get back to the top of the mountain, come to Royal Rumble, WrestleMania next year, and Bianca Belair can carry the flag of being Raw Women's Champion going in towards all the summer months, and perhaps maybe even a match with Rhea Ripley. Next, let's talk the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. Now, I've got him going against Kevin Owens. Now, there's a couple of reasons why I've picked KO, because KO, of course, was in the main event of WrestleMania, so what better way for Cody He beat Seth Rollins last month, a former world champion, then to go against another former world champion and a WrestleMania main eventer in KO. We want to see Cody become a big deal in WWE. And one other little note as well, they did have a dark match on the Raw after Mania. That was the match that closed off, that sent everybody home after Raw went off air. So maybe that could be a sign of things to come. And while I'd perhaps book this, I'd look at the idea that Seth came out and shook hands with Cody Rhodes. I go and play into the friendship of Kevin Owens and Seth Rollins. The idea of, you shook his hand, the guy beat you. He took away your WrestleMania moment. You were fighting tooth and nail to get there, and they just brought this guy in and just put him on the card. And not only went to go and take your spot, he actually defeated you. It was a complete surprise. It was, a travesty, an outrage. My best friend shouldn't be treated like that. I think that's what they should do. And with Seth Rollins doing the handshake, almost accepting it, we could perhaps start seeing a bit of a tweener role between Seth Rollins now going forward. He's sort of on KO's side of this, but he kind of sees what Cody did and perhaps maybe admires it, because it's perhaps something he would have done if he could have taken the opportunity to be the big surprise at WrestleMania, be, the heist of the century. If you remember back at WrestleMania 31 when he did that, he's used to creating controversy and surprises out of WrestleMania. So I think Seth sees eye to eye and respects what Cody has done, and perhaps that could lead to a Seth versus KO feud going towards SummerSlam. And at this point as well, Cody Rhodes gets another big win on pay-per-view, defeating Kevin Owens, and perhaps he starts making that march of whether he can actually win the World Championship later this year in WWE. That's where the big question will be for Cody. And I think at this point, you need to start him off strong. He needs to be against good opponents on pay-per-view and picking up victories. So that's exactly what I would do. Last but not least, it's main event time. Let's talk about it. Yes, the head of the table, our tribal chief, the WWE Unified Universal Champion. Is it going to be one belt Roman? Is it going to be two belts Roman? Like I say, we don't know at this point. I have no idea. When you're watching this, SmackDown's passed, the whole next few weeks have passed. On Raw after Mania, Roman still had two belts. He was classified of having both championships. But either way, he is the top dog of both shows. He's going to be on Raw and SmackDown going forward. So on SmackDown this week, I think it's the time that Drew McIntyre inserts himself back into the title picture. But he is not going to be the only one, because as I say, Roman is the head of both shows. So let's have a triple threat match and let's have one challenger from each side. And I'm going to insert Seth Rollins back into this position. Now, a couple of reasons I'm doing so. A, let's look at Seth Rollins. He actually faced Roman Reigns earlier this year at the Royal Rumble. He didn't lose. He won by disqualification. So via that, Seth Rollins is granted another championship opportunity and will represent the Raw side. And on SmackDown, Drew McIntyre, well, he's beat Happy Corbin. He's been out of the championship picture for a long time. He thinks it's time to get back into the top where he feels he belongs. And I think this is a triple threat match. It's fresh, it's exciting. I don't think something that's ever been done for WWE with these three in the same ring at the same time. I'd actually quite like to see Drew and Seth in a rivalry as well. I think that could be quite fun to see. And with Seth as well kind of having this tweener kind of role, it fits the narrative very nicely for a triple threat match. You've got the pure babyface of Drew McIntyre, the sort of tweener role of Seth, and then of course then the full-on heel of the tribal chief Roman Reigns. And if Roman Reigns is hurt after WrestleMania, a triple threat match makes the most sense going forward, because spots can be done in that match without having to put him through a full match one-on-one. If times you can perhaps, not that I like him being cowardly and as a heel, but he can be on the outside, he can be coming away from the action, he can just be laying down on the floor. There's ways to protect Roman Reigns in this environment, and then to book a finish, you can actually get Roman get that victory over Seth Rollins, and of course then later in the year, it can then build to Roman versus Drew. Drew lost that match mainly to go towards the back of the line, but big rumours are that around SummerSlam time, perhaps even around the time we've got the UK pay-per-view, whenever that's going to be announced, that Drew would be the guy to beat Roman Reigns. You can start the process of building that from here to then. But for me, I'm going to do some more fantasy booking just before I close it off. If I was to book it the way I'd want to, Gunther lost clean this past week on NXT as well to Bron Breakker. In my opinion, the biggest match they could have done. Gunther must be going to SmackDown. I'd have Gunther take Drew McIntyre out at the end of that match. That then gives Drew something to do through Hell in a Cell and Money in the Bank, and we can readdress Drew back against Roman Reigns come SummerSlam and that UK pay-per-view. So that's how I would book WrestleMania Backlash 2022, the match card all together. Once again, let's go through those matches very, very quickly. So now it's your turn to tell me, do you like the look of that card? Do you like the look of the booking? Let me know in the comments below right now how you would book WrestleMania Backlash 2022. If you've enjoyed this video, then please like it as well, share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit the bell, set the notifications to all, each and every time a video is released on the channel. More fantasy booking videos are on the way for you as well. I've got a couple of fun ones in the pipe works right now, so keep an eye on the channel. I do recommend it, and as well as that, also the Q&As will be on the channel as well, including the last Q&A, Ask SCW 120 is available for you to go and watch right now. But that's all from me. Thank you for watching. Have yourselves a great day. You've been watching SCW here on YouTube. Take care. I'll see you soon.